Hey everybody, welcome to Black Lotus Live, where we talk about all things strange and unusual. And tonight we have two very special guests with us. They're both returning. We have Rob Gutro, and he's written a new book, and it's about Tombstone, Arizona. Here, let me pull up the, if I can do this. All right, there we go. This is the cover of his new book, Ghosts of the Birdcage Theatre on on a medium's vacation. And I got to tell you, I'm dying to read this. Back when Terry and I, it was about 7 years ago, I guess, when we first moved to Las Vegas, we came out from Florida and we drove out here and we had the time to spend. And so we stopped at various points of interest and, like New Orleans and that kind of thing. And when we got into Arizona, we stopped at Tombstone. And but by the time we got there, almost everything was closed. I mean, the only thing we got to do was we got to go to the OK Corral's gift shop. They had stopped doing the tours for the day, but then we ended up having dinner at Big Nose Kate's. And I got to tell you, from our experience there, Big Nose Kate's is very haunted. I mean, we didn't see anything, but you could feel the presence there deeply. But,
very much so.
Yeah, it's one of the places where I'd really like to go back and revisit because I really want to see the Birdcage Theatre and see what I could experience there, and the OK Corral and that kind of thing. And what's that other saloon there? I can't remember the name of it. But anyway, so yeah, Rob has written a book about his experience at the Birdcage Theatre. And of course, we also have Victoria Mundae with us. And it's great to have you back with us. So, yeah. So, Rob, tell us about your experience there.
Well, thanks for having me back on. I really appreciate it. So I came to write this book because I visited in 2019 and I decided to take the ghost tour with a friend of mine who never had a paranormal experience before. And when we went, he wound up having 2 ghost sightings, if you will. So he came out a believer after the 3 hours in the Birdcage Theatre ghost tour. And over the course of the ghost tour, I encountered 11 with him.
11.
Oh, wow.
The ghosts, yeah. So.
But he didn't catch all 11?
Well, there's a history of 26 people being murdered there. So as far as I knew, there were 11 ghosts, but there's probably more that just didn't want to communicate with me that night.
Got it.
Now, I've heard that some of the ghosts are ghosts from people who used to do this kind of trick on the ceiling. They would walk on the ceiling. And the trick was they used magnets in their shoes. But I've heard that people have seen these ghosts up there. and they swing the chandeliers and that kind of thing. Did you experience anything like that?
No, I did not. Everybody was pretty much on the floor that I met. Unless Victoria had some experiences otherwise.
No, but if I was going to come back as a ghost, I think I would do that. I mean, that sounds fun. Woohoo, I'm up here, you know.
So, Rob, tell us about your experiences there.
So there may not be a lot of people who are familiar with Tombstone. So if I could, I'd like to give a little bit of information about what it is, so people are familiar with it. It's a
Absolutely.
Tombstone is a small city. It's south of it's southeast of Tucson, Arizona, and it was founded in 1877 when a silver miner named Ed Shefflin found his first silver strike out in the desert. He named the silver strike Tombstone because when he went to Fort Huachuca, one of the soldiers told him the only thing he would find out there is his tombstone. So he appropriately named the Silver Strike Tombstone. The town was formed around it, and then by 1879, and by 1881, the Birdcage Theatre opened on Christmas Eve officially. It was open before that, but it officially opened on Christmas Eve. So, of course, the town sprung up because everybody streamed there from all over the West, and they wanted to make their fortune. I've heard some historians say that it was one of the most populated places in the West around 1879, 1881. Someone likened it to modern day Los Angeles or San Diego or something like that. So there are a lot of people from all over the place, good and bad. And of course, have you all watched the movie Tombstone from 1993 with
one of my favorites?
Yes.
Kurt Russell.
Yeah, one of my favorites, definitely. And viewers, if you don't know a lot about Tombstone, definitely watch this movie, and it'll really fill you in. And I thought it was named Tombstone because of the bad things that have happened there. I mean, there's so much gun violence there and all that stuff. So I always thought it was Tombstone for that reason.
Well, now you know the real story. So I was actually inspired after I saw the film Tombstone in 1993. And so in 1994, I convinced a very good friend of mine to go out there and visit the town with me because I was fascinated with Wyatt Earp. And we decided that we would go to the town and we would dress up. I would dress up as Wyatt Earp and he dressed up as Doc Holliday. And that's the way we visited the town.
I love it.
Nice.
I love it.
Best ever vacation. People thought we worked there as reenactors. So they were taking our picture with them, and it was great. So I wound up meeting the man that managed the Birdcage Theatre. His name is Billy Hunley. And I befriended him in 1994. And I've stayed in touch with him through the years. And just recently, they started a ghost tour. Back, before 2019, they started a ghost tour. Now, when I went there in 94, my abilities as a medium were dormant. And I had no contact with any ghosts there at all. Although I did photograph one in a picture, which I will get to later. But Victoria was telling me earlier about her experiences in the Birdcage.
Yeah, I was there in between Rob's visits, so around 2000, and that was before Ghost Hunters and Ghost Adventures and all that kind of things were going on. So there were no ghost tours, and once you move to Arizona, you become the most popular member in your family because everyone's like, "Hey, cousin, can I come see you?" And then we're going to go to the Grand Canyon, right? So we constantly had family coming in, like, "Well, do you want to go look at the hole in the, in the ground, or do you want to go to Tombstone?" So we would always go down to Tombstone, and my family that I married into is very conservative Christian. So this is, you don't even say the ghost word. So we went there and I had experiences and I was with my daughter. I'm like, did you see that? Did you hear that? But we weren't telling them because they probably would have left us out there, to, rot out in the desert or something, because, the slogan for Tombstone is the town that's too tough to die. So, yeah, we had some experiences out there and I was super excited to read Rob's book because, I'd never really talked about this with anyone because, you can't talk about ghosts. And I'm like, oh, did he? And so I flipped through. I'm like, yes, that happened to me too. And then Rob actually had a picture of a lady. And I saw her, well, with my third eye, I saw her once coming up the stairs. And then I also smelled her perfume when I was going backstage. So
Oh, wow.
it was so nice to have validation finally after all these years. Yeah, now I want to go back and do a ghost tour because when I went, they're like, yeah, just go on in, $2, and so they just let us walk around, and nothing was off limits. And my daughter was up on stage playing the piano, which was from, I think, an original piano in 1880.
I'm surprised they allowed her to do that.
Yeah, well, they didn't care at that time. They're like, yeah, go ahead. But now I'm sure that's like, that's a major no-no. But it was an amazing place.
So awesome. It is now a museum, and so it really actually operated only between 1881 and 1889 full time. And when it was open, it had a multiple number of multiple purposes. So it was a theater. It was a live production theater. It was a saloon. They have a big bar in the front. It was a gambling den. Down in the basement, they have a bunch of poker tables, and it's actually the site of the world's longest poker game, which I can talk about later. And they also have what are called cribs for the ladies of the evening, or the soiled doves, as they refer to them there in Tombstone. So there were 4 different activities that were happening there 24 hours a day, 365 days a year from 1881 to 1889. And then in 1889, the silver miners went a little too deep, and they struck underground wells, and that flooded all the silver mines in Tombstone, basically shutting the industry down. So, as I like to say that there's an irony there because the mines flooded and the town dried up of people.
Mm-hmm.
What are the odds?
Wow.
Yeah. So during the day, it's a museum. During the day, it's a museum, and at night now they offer the ghost tours.
I'm looking
Do
forward
they
to
use
going
any of the
back.
facilities to eat, or do they have the bar open or anything like that? I mean, it's not being used at all? It's just literally just for the tours?
It's really just a museum. I'm not sure if they actually serve drinks there or not. I can't remember. I don't drink.
I don't think they do.
I didn't take advantage of it.
That's where you could buy all the
sure
souvenirs. Yeah, I remember.
Yeah. I'm sure that if you go on the ghost tour and you see a ghost, you want to drink. But
when Terry and I were there, like I said, the only things open was Big Nose Kate's and the OK Corral gift shop. And at the gift shop, you mentioned that you and your friend went dressed as Wyatt Earp and Doc Holliday, and they had stuff there so you could dress up. You could buy it, and like the Wyatt Earp hat and the long duster and all that. But oh my God, I couldn't believe the prices of them. I saw it. I thought, yeah, kind of cool, but I don't think I'm going to get it.
Where it was
Any one of those places, yeah, you could rent them. Yeah, because I do all the Renaissance things out here, and they have costumes you can rent, or you can just do like me and make your garb all year long and go in. But those are the best vacations when you go dressed up.
I love Rent Fest. I really do. And I haven't been in, God, years. And we don't have one here in Vegas. We have something called Pirate Fest, and it's more geared toward little kids. So I haven't been to that, and it's usually held at the hottest time of the year here, so.
Yeah, we have, there's actually a Renaissance Festival going on now that I'm going to go to in a couple of weeks out near Austin. And then our Renaissance Festival is the largest one in the country. And that
Is it?
it starts
Wow.
the end of September and goes through to Thanksgiving. So it's huge.
Hmm.
Pirate Days,
Yeah.
that sounds fun.
Yeah, not from what I've seen, and I'm really into pirates, but yeah, this just looks like a kids show, for little kids. So
Well,
yeah.
Funny story,
That's-
not relating to Birdcage, but I can tell you real quick. I went on a pirate cruise, our Renaissance group. And so for 7 days and nights, we dressed up as pirates. And much like Rob, people would stop us because they thought we were on the crew. Like, well, where is the blah, blah, blah? I don't know.
So anyway, Rob, getting back to the Birdcage, what all did you experience? Uh-oh, is he frozen? I think he might be frozen.
It looks like he might be frozen.
Well, I read Rob's book. I could tell you a little bit about it.
Okay.
Until he pops back.
Can't
He
hear
experienced-
you.
Oh, there we go.
There he is. He blinked. Okay. And that's how he solved the crime. Okay.
I think we're
Are
having
you back,
audio-
Rob?
I think Rob might have to. Rob might have to re-sign in, I think, because this has happened sometimes to me when the connection is just too bad. I have to.
Rob, can
There
you
we
hear
go.
us?
Looks like he's moving.
Rob?
He can't hear us.
Yeah.
And he's on mute. Oh, there we go.
Yeah, I'm not hearing anybody. I'm just hearing little snippets.
Huh.
Oh.
If you can hear me now, you may
Everybody's
want to
screen is
sign.
black. Mine.
Everybody's screen is black. Right.
I can hear you
Yeah,
now.
it's a bad connection.
You can hear me?
Probably choppy.
Yeah.
Fading in and out.
There we go.
If-
Everybody
if you
just come
can't-
back.
Okay.
Log out and come back. Rob, you may want to log out and come back.
I will do that.
All right. Okay. Yeah, sometimes I know that happens to me a lot because the connection gets so poor.
There he goes.
Okay. So Victoria, you were saying you read the book and tell us about some of it.
His book is awesome. I can tell you about my experiences. I don't want to steal his thunder
Yeah.
if you want. Okay. Well, when I walked in, I was with my husband and my daughter was about probably 7 at that time. And I don't want to be dismissive, but they were like, yeah, go in, look, have a good time. Just, there was no organized tour or anything. So we were just walking in and looking around. And when you walk in, there was like an area that was originally where people would sit and they would look at the stage show and stuff. And then off on the left-hand side was a staircase. You could go up and actually go backstage. So my daughter and I went up the little stairs and we were standing on the stage and I could smell this lady's perfume. And so I called her over and I said, smell this. What does this smell like? And it was just hanging in the air. And there weren't a lot of tourists coming in that day because at that time, there were no tours or anything. So she started smelling the perfume and she was, it smells like grandma. I was like, yeah, it does. It smells like old perfume. And it was kind of this lavender, rose, floral type perfume. So one of the, much to my daughter's chagrin, I have a super nose. So I can always tell when, hey, were you doing this? Because I can smell it on you. So I followed the scent of the perfume and it went backstage and it turned and it went up some little steps to a door and it kind of disappeared. And in my mind's eye, I could see a lady and she was like going backstage, like she was a stage manager or something, but she had something to do with the production that was on stage. So we messed around and we were backstage and there's a cat under me. As we went down the stairs, I don't know which one did. Oh, this is the one they threw away. She's a sweet cat. But, I could see a lady and she was a rather large lady, an older lady. She had her hair up. I think it was the Gibson girls, like the famous, pioneer hairstyle. And she had her skirt and she was running up the stairs and she disappeared. So I think that is the same lady Rob has in her book, because the sketch he drew of her it was a perfect match.
Did your daughter see her?
No, my daughter is a big denier. She if she she would probably say the earth is flat. She's one of those.
Oh no.
No. Earth is not flat. So,
It's hollow, but it's not flat.
it is. It's hollow.
So before you got messed up with your internet, Rob, you were talking about your experiences there.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So yeah. So I met 11 of the ghosts. So the Birdcage Theatre is really famous for a lot of activity, as I was mentioning it, and there were 26 confirmed people murdered at the Birdcage Theatre.
Wow.
There are,
Whoa.
if you go in there and you tour during the day, you can actually see a lot of the 140 bullet holes in the ceiling and the walls.
Oh my gosh.
Can you?
Wow.
Really?
Happened during the 8-year period that it was highly active. Just to go back, after 1889, when the Birdcage kind of folded from those activities, it reopened from time to time on a temporary basis. Like I think at one point in time it was a coffee shop or something, and then finally it in the 1900s, I think it was 1970 or something, it became a museum, and they had all of the stuff in the Birdcage Theatre, all of the things from the 1880s that were virtually untouched. And so now when you go in there during the day, everything in front of the stage area is in display cases. So you can see like pharmacy bottles from the 1880s. You can see guns. You can see cards, playing cards, different pieces of clothing, all kinds of stuff. So it really does take you right back into time. So it's really cool to see in the daytime as well as during a ghost tour.
See, Terry, we've got to go back there.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, we do. Hey, let's all go.
Okay.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, I can give you a motivation to go. Memorial Day weekend, I'm actually going to be there.
How are you?
Ooh.
I was invited
Oh.
by the Birdcage. I was invited to go out there and give a talk and do a book signing from the 28th, 29th, and 30th of May. During
That's
Wyatt Earp
cool.
days, actually.
Okay.
Ah, really? Okay.
That's very cool.
I'll have to see if I'm working.
So what were you saying about the world's longest poker game?
Oh, yeah. So the world's longest poker game happened in the basement. And that poker game went on 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And it went for 8 years, 5 months, and 3 days.
Wow.
Oh, geez.
Wow.
Yeah. And somebody said to me, well, how do you take, bathroom breaks? Well, people get up and go to the bathroom and come back. Then they wait for them.
Or sleep?
Yeah. And I think that the players there were changeable. So whenever
Yeah.
somebody would need to go home and go
Right.
to bed, somebody else would come in and take their place, and the game just kept
okay.
going on. So, but yeah, 8 years, 5 months, and 3 days. That's the
Wow.
Guinness Book of World Records record for longest poker.
I think I saw a picture of that poker table, and it still has chips on it. And like one of the chairs is tilted down toward the table,
Yeah.
like the person was up going to the bathroom or something.
That's what you do on a potty break. You tip them forward. So
Exactly. No, I think it was the jug break because there
True.
there was jugs back then. I think.
just go out. There's a side of the building. It's Arizona. Yeah,
Well,
it's a dry heat. So,
this is true.
yeah.
And right across from that gambling area were those like 4 cribs, if you were. And Victoria, didn't you have an experience there? Didn't you see somebody in one of those cribs you were talking about?
I
earlier?
did. Well, the family was hanging around the poker table, and it was an interesting family I was in. They were big poker players, so I could totally see how this game would go on for 8 years because they would be playing and playing. Like, are you still playing? It's been 5 hours, going to bed, and they're playing in the morning. But they're like little rooms, is what I imagine they kind of were. But they have like the panels in the door, and one of the panels had been kicked in or broken in or knocked in or something, so you could actually look in there. And when I looked in, there was maybe 7 by 10 room, and there was a bed in there, and the bed was turned diagonally a little, and it was all messed up, and it looks like it was authentic to the time. And there was a dresser, and there was a woman who was kind of standing over the bed like she was pulling up the sheets, and she had a white chemise type shirt on and some bloomers, and she looked over at me, and at the same time the man looked up, and he was wearing long johns and a pair of boots, and he was putting his pants on, and they looked like they had just, had completed whatever their transaction was. And I was like, oh, and so I kind of stepped back out. I'm like, okay, well, can't tell anyone about this one. Yeah. So, you could definitely see things down there. And when Rob and I were talking on Edge of the Rabbit Hole, you were talking about when you got to the bottom of the stairs, you went back against the wall. But when I was at the bottom of the stairs, I felt like I hit a bouncy house of energy. And I have found that doing that a little bit more often these days, where there's been some sort of energy there, or someone's put up a shield, or they've done something, an energy barrier, to just kind of hit it and bounce off and go on. So it's an amazing place. And I really want to go back, and I'm trying so hard to go back when Rob's there, because I think that would be so fun.
That encounter you just mentioned, it sounds more like it sounds less like a spirit that is haunting the place, and it sounds less like that and more like a memory or like a flashback of something that was happening. What is your interpretation of that event? Like an echo, right? Okay.
It was like an echo, because when I first walked in, it's a very, very small. I mean, Rob, did you think it was large or small when you first walk in? Because I always thought it would be huge, but it's really kind of a lot smaller than I expected. But there's a staircase that goes up, and then it turns like 90 degrees and goes up more. And when I walked in, I could see a man walking down, and he was tucking his shirt in. And right when he got to where the stair turned, he kind of disappeared. So it's like an echo or a time slip, or maybe a memory that was really strong there that I could see.
Interesting.
Hey, we have
experience.
We have somebody special in the house, Essex Ghost Investigations. Hey, do me a favor. Give me
Can't hear anything.
Rob's having problems again?
Sounds like
Well, anyway, Essex Ghost Investigations, contact me at BlackLotusPodcat@gmail.com. I'd love to have you on the show and talk about your experiences. So anyway,
and
on with the show.
And I just want to say to Rob, if you could hear this, you may have to restart your device completely. I know that sucks, but in the past when I've had these problems, I just have to restart my computer completely and come back on, and that fixes it. That may be what you have to do.
He's shaking his head.
But I was also asking so you noticed this echo, and I was going to ask did you notice, were all your experiences, do you believe they were all echoes, or did you have different experiences that were not echoes?
I think there were echoes. What I was discussing earlier with Rob is the people I seemed to pick up on were always the women. I didn't identify with any of the men there, so I don't know. And he has to. Oh, sorry, Mike. Alexa just turned on my lights. So, Alexa, turn off the sofa light. Okay, there you go. And I don't know if the women were more on the same level with me, they could identify with me, or if the men saw, I was beneath them, I was a female, I'm not worth their time. But I kept picking up on women and women's scents, and there's always like a hint you could feel that it will some sort of womanly presence, a female presence was around.
Okay. Now, another question is, did you feel like they were sensing you, or was it a two-way thing, or was it a one-way thing? Like only you were sensing them?
Some of them, they were like the man and the woman who were in the crib. They looked at me like, "Why are you looking at me?" I'm like, "Oh, sorry."
Oh,
But then the lady who was running up the
Trust
stairs, the stage manager lady, she was just doing her job. But earlier,
right.
you were asking about the feelings of Tombstone. I was there with my dad and his wife, and it was late in the day. And literally at dark, the sidewalks will roll up. Everybody's gone. And we had gone down to the saloon for dinner because it was the only thing open because we were messing around so long. Yeah, we had laughs. We had a couple of drinks. We had hamburgers and steaks. And when we walked out, it was totally dark. It was like there were just like some little gas lamps every now and then on the sides of the buildings. And we said, "Oh, we're in the middle of Tombstone. Let's go walking down the street." So all four of us were walking side by side like we were going to have a shootout with somebody. And it was the creepiest feeling. It felt like the buildings were looking or watching us, or people were. It was just like energy was coming out of the buildings like that. Like,
Right, right,
who are these
exactly.
people?
Oh.
So,
Yeah, when Terry and I were there, when we got done with dinner at Big Nose Kate's, we had to walk down the street to get to our car. And yeah, same feeling. It felt
Yeah.
like the buildings were watching you. It
Yeah,
was really weird.
Because in Arizona, okay, if you ever spent any time there, they'll soak up the heat. But when the sun goes down, the heat comes off. So there is a radiation that comes out. But it was like that, but it was extremely intense. And we had to walk all the way down the street to the other side of the birdcage. There's a small self-parking parking lot there. I got to tell you, it was a lot of fun walking down the dusty streets of Tombstone at sunset, just the four of us. Everyone needs to do that at least once.
Did you feel like you were in a
Oh yeah,
shootout?
definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it was a really strange feeling though to feel like, it did. It felt like there were people in the buildings or on top of the buildings
Yes.
looking through windows or something. And I just felt like it was coming down from everywhere.
Yes, that's the exact feeling. Yeah. Yeah, because I would
Yeah,
mention my
very
daughter.
few lights.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I
Rob?
wonder why a place.
Rob, can you hear us now? He's frozen up again.
Oh, Rob.
Oh, there he goes. Rob, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear a couple of words every now and then. I don't understand really what's on the problem with connection here, but so I apologize. I have
No, it's no problem.
I have no control over this.
It
And
happens.
Rob, I was going to say, if you have problems again, Rob, you may have to restart your laptop. That's what I do, and that fixes the problem. If it happens again.
Already did. Already restarted it.
Oh, and it's
Oh,
still
okay.
doing it. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Maybe Rob
Yeah.
can just tell us a couple of stories.
Yeah.
Ralph?
Me?
Sure. Okay. Well, I can tell you guys
Oh,
about one of the most dramatic ones, which was and I told Victoria about this one. Shot in the throat. So hopefully can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah, you're cutting out a little bit, but yeah.
I hope so. Okay. Well, I'll just go on. Again, I'm sorry. I have no idea. I'm not a computer guy. So, so hopefully you can hear the story. So, what the ghost tour takes place at night, and it's a couple of hours, and they take you into the lobby and they give you kind of a brief history of the Birdcage Theatre. And then that was where I saw my very first ghost, and it was a woman, and she was in the lobby. And then they take you in the back. Now they have a partition that separates the lobby from the theater area, and you have to go through a door on the left-hand side. Once you go in that door, you are in the area that used to be where all the chairs were that face the curtain, the front of the theater. So I was one of the last ones into that area. And as soon as I came into that area, I suddenly felt a bullet go right through my throat. And I was forced against the back of the wall. And
Whoa.
I couldn't speak. I was there with my friend, and he was wondering what was going on. and I felt blood rushing out through my throat, through an opening in my throat, and I couldn't talk. I sensed that there was a man, and I heard him talking in my head. He told me this is what happened to him, and I was trying to tell him to cut it out. He told me his name was Jerome, and he was shot there, and that's where he died. It took me about 3 minutes before I was able to clear my throat enough so that I could rasp out to my friend, who was looking at me incredulously and wondering what was going on. And I told him. Well, the tour guide came over to me too. She saw what was going on in the back, and she said, "Are you okay?" And I explained to her what happened. And that's when she told me, she said, "I can confirm that there was a man that was murdered here, and he was shot in the throat." So that man just wanted to let me know what happened to him and that he is still there.
Is this the picture you sent me that you drew?
Yes. So I had 5 illustrations in there of ghosts that I encountered, and that there was one. Yep. I think I'm not sure if that was the one I sent you or the one that was shot in the chest. So,
Hang on. Let me share this.
I think it is the Jerome picture.
it was a pretty wild thing. I've experienced a lot of stuff in my life, but
That was probably
so that's me
frightening
on the
for
cover.
you.
It was very scary. When I was in England, I was attacked by a sword. I felt the sword go right through my shoulder, and I fell to the ground physically when I was in England.
Wow.
And on all these paranormal investigations, I've been hit, punched, kicked, thrown downstairs, shot at, knifed. I felt cancer and heart attacks and all kinds of things. And but this is the first time I was ever shot in the throat. So
Wow.
it was pretty frightening. And as a scientist, I have to figure out, that was the guy that was shot in the chest. That was another guy that decided to share his pain of death with me.
How did you get so lucky, Rob?
Wow.
I realize that ghosts, when they can sense who has the ability to sense them, and they want to tell their stories, and usually they want help crossing over. Well, these guys that were murdered there didn't seem to want help crossing over. They just wanted to share their stories. I think that Jerome was involved with gambling, and that he was wronged, or he felt he was wronged, or he cheated or something, and that's why he was shot. I think the same thing happened with the other guy too. Maybe he was cheating. So those are just 2 of the 11.
Wow.
But it was pretty violent.
Dang. Interesting. What do you think that area? What do you think that makes that a hot spot? Is it just because there was so much emotions? Like the emotions of dying and of shooting and the brothel, and what makes this area haunted as opposed to other historical areas that are not as haunted? What makes it special, do you think?
Well, I think that because of the 4 different professions that were happening there, that really lent itself to emanating a lot of emotional energy. Of course, everybody, when you're gambling, if somebody cheats in poker and there's money on the line, you're going to get very angry and you're going to get very emotional, and that's going to impress that energy on the structures.
Okay.
Also, on the other side of the fence, in those little cribs there, you get the happiness end of the spectrum, at least for one person.
Right.
Sure.
Plus, they were actors and actresses who loved their trade, and that's another positive emotional energy that gets imprinted. But there are also there was a lot of alcohol problems, of course, And we have to remember that in the 1880s, there was a really bad faction of people that were there. They came from Texas, the Cowboys,
Hey.
um,
Oh.
and the Cowboy gang.
I know. Hey,
Hey, you got two Texans here.
Well, you chased them out.
Okay. Plus, wasn't Geronimo was that was his heyday in his area too? So he was running through there all the time. I don't know if he ran through Tombstone, but that part of
Yeah,
Arizona.
So he did. So Tombstone was known for a famous photographer of Western figures, C.S. Fly. And C.S. Fly had his studio right next to the OK Corral. C.S. Fly actually was granted permission by Geronimo himself to take his photograph. And that's the most famous photograph of Geronimo that we have today.
Wow, I didn't know that. And plus, wasn't the Birdcage like one of the only buildings that didn't totally burn? I mean, there were so many fires, the wooden structures would just go, but the Birdcage was made of stone. So a lot of that survived.
Yeah, and that's another reason why that it's really a hub of paranormal activity too, is that, granted, there are some other structures that may have survived, but there were several fires in Tombstone that burned things to the ground, and they just kept rebuilding over those 8 years. There actually was a ghost that walked through me when I was outside in front of, I think it was Smoke Signals. That's the name of the store. I actually felt a man walk through me, and I got totally chilled, and I had to stop, and I was shaking, and my friend Dan looked at me and he said, "What the hell just happened to you?" He said, "You look like somebody just walked through you." And I said, "That's exactly what happened. It was a man who walked through me, and he took all the body heat, my energy, and he just left me like stranded there." So yeah, Tombstone's very haunted. But the Birdcage has a whole plethora of ghosts from different areas.
Do you think it's amped up because now they do the ghost tours? I mean, it was a lot there when I went in 2000 and 2001 and all the earlier years.
Yeah, certainly. I think with more people coming in, the energy, the emotional energy is like a battery that never goes out. So they're absorbing that emotional energy, whether it's fear or anxiety that people feel at night. Because as I've said before, that ghosts and spirits who have crossed over are emotional. They're energy. They're memories, personality, and knowledge with energy, and they use physical energies of heat, light, water, and electricity, but they use emotional energies, especially ghosts use the negative ones: fear, anxiety, depression, anger, things like that. That's what fuels a ghost. So if you get people who have never been on a ghost tour before and they're a little scared, they're fueling that ghost. So yeah, the ghosts are loving it.
But your friend Dan saw the Cowboy, right? Up on the stage?
He did. So my friend Dan, who has never had a paranormal experience in his life, didn't know what to think. He lives in Arizona. He lives in Phoenix, and he'd never been to Tombstone. And by the time we got to Tombstone, it was dark, and we knew it because we had planned the day, and we had planned for the ghost tour, specifically for the ghost tour. We spent most of the day in Bisbee, which is a copper mining town, also with a very haunted location, the Copper Queen Hotel. So Dan went in with an open mind, and he said, "I'm probably not going to see a ghost, but," he said, "it'd be cool." And he photographed the face of a miner in a mirror.
Oh.
And I was able to find a picture of a miner in the Arizona Historical website that looked like the man that was in the mirror. And then Dan saw a man in a cowboy hat stand up in the doorway and walk down the stairs when we were all seated behind the curtain. They at the end of the ghost tour, they seat you behind the curtain at two long rectangular tables for an hour, so to try and get you to, give you the opportunity to try and communicate with ghosts. And Dan nudged me and he said, "You see that guy in the cowboy hat?" He said, there's only one guy wearing a cowboy hat in our group of 20, but he's sitting over there. He said, "So who's that?" And he actually saw one of the ghosts that were walking down the
Wow.
stairs. Yeah, so
Cool.
I sketched that guy, and he's in the book too.
Do you think he was going to the poker game? But you could go in from because it's multi-leveled, you can go in from the bottom to go to the poker game, right? Which would be through the gift shop now.
God, I don't know. I think there's only one way in and one way out of the basement. That stairway behind the stage.
Okay.
You mentioned that
I'm not sure.
you mentioned that you were in communication with the manager of the place, and surely he's seen some stuff.
Oh yeah. So in 1994, when I went dressed up as Wyatt Earp and with my friend just as Doc Holliday, we went in there, and he instantly befriended us because he said, "I've never seen two Yankees come out here dressed up as Wyatt Earp and Doc Holliday," and he said, "I got to give it to you guys. You have a lot of courage," and he thought it was really cool. So we befriended him and his wife, and so he has had a number of encounters. He's had one specific encounter with a woman, a lady of the night. And in his offices. So the day after the ghost tour, Dan and I came back and we met Billy and Amy. And for the first time ever, Billy took us into the offices. Well, that soiled dove, as it was, came in and visited at the very moment that we walked in.
Oh, wow.
She told me a whole bunch of stuff. And she of course started observing my body heat on one side of me. And Billy has reported quite a number of things. Billy said that he would be sitting at the computer. This is not in the book, but he said he would be sitting in his computer and he would smell a mix of perfume and body odor, as if someone were leaning right over his shoulder while he's looking at his computer doing his stuff. And he knew that was her. So he's had quite a few. Actually, he's also seen an actor cross the stage at night when he used to close up. And that was the face of that actor is one that I photographed in 1994 unknowingly. And that's in the book. So there's all kinds of amazing things that happen in there. If you take the ghost tour, you won't be disappointed.
Well, I need to get your book.
Oh yeah.
Speaking of that, viewers, that book is listed in this description at the top of the description, so you can check it out at Amazon.
Was his office upstairs? And do you think that might have been like a former crib?
That's a good question. So it was right behind the bar.
Okay.
There was like a little wood. There was a panel in the wall that turned, and you walked in, and there was a room. There were two rooms side by side. I think they were about 8 by 10. They were small rooms, really. It could have been, or it could have been like the offices for the Birdcage, where they managed the theater. I'm not sure what the original purpose was.
Yeah.
But she liked going in there.
Hiding.
Well,
Rob,
she did tell me that. She did tell me.
I was going to ask before was, out of all these people that died there, was it always violently, or was there other cases of other people dying for health reasons and stuff? Seems like it was, like you said, very violent.
Yeah, it was very violent. So a couple of the women didn't reveal how they died. I think they may have died outside the Birdcage Theater, but because they basically did had their career there, they didn't leave. They came back to where they were familiar with. The lady in white too, in the back of the backstage, she didn't look like she belonged there to me. She just didn't look like a lady of the evening to me because she was in white, and you know I don't usually think of a lady wearing white as a lady of the evening.
Right.
It was, you know, I saw some in red velvet dresses and dark colored gowns and so forth, but so she was an anomaly to me. What did you think about that, Victoria?
I thought she worked there. Yeah, she seemed almost militant. Like, I've got to get this. I have to do this now. Move. Let's go. Come on. Okay, next person. Let's go. You know, maybe she was a madam or she was in charge of something. But I was trying to think the other day, like, what would a woman have been in charge of, unless it was the girls, or if, you know, maybe she was a former entertainer and she helps out with the stage acts because you said they had rotating acts and things, or she seemed like she was in charge of something. Not
well. There's also around the corner from the tombstone, the Birdcage, is a boarding house. It used to be actually a boarding house, and it was run by a woman. So I was thinking that maybe she had some connection there too, because
probably
that boarding house was, I think that it was knocked down. And my experience with earthbound ghosts is that whenever the dwelling that they choose to inhabit for the rest of their afterlife is knocked down, they often look for the next closest one. And the reason I say that is that when I went to England, and I was talking about my Ghosts of England on the Medium's Vacation book, there was a man that decided to haunt the room that my husband and I were in. And he had never been to this castle before, but it turned out that he was in battle a mile away from this castle, and it was the site of his greatest defeat. So as the site of his greatest defeat in battle, he would have haunted or tried to haunt that area, but there was no structure to keep him from the elements. So I think that in order for ghosts to maintain their stability, they need to be housed away from the elements, because, you know, sunlight and air and rain and so forth will dissipate energy. So I think they have sense enough to know that.
I was going to ask you, it's related to, I'm sorry, go ahead. Terry, were you going to say something? Okay, I was going to ask you, I'm sorry, what was that? I didn't hear that.
I was going to say that makes a lot of sense, but I'll be quiet.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay. I was going to ask, number one, what is there any physical manifestations that happen with these ghosts? And then number two, I was going to ask you, you know, what does it take for a ghost to do something physical, like move an object or push somebody? You know, what does it take for a ghost to do that? And is anything like that reported at Tombstone? Or
a lot of energy, I would imagine.
Yeah, so it really is. It's all about energy. So the woman in white actually manifested in color to me. It happened when we were sitting behind the backstage, and I saw her standing behind a woman, and the woman said, "Somebody just put their hand on my shoulder," and she freaked out. And it was the woman in white that I was looking at. And I told her, I said, "It's a woman behind you. She's in white." And she's like, "It feels like a woman's hand." So she was drawing on all of the emotional anxiety and fear that some of the people had there. And as I said, fear, anxiety, depression, anger, those fuel a ghost. But they also use the physical energies of heat, light, water, and electricity. So they were drawing from that particular ghost, the woman in white. She was drawing from other energy sources too, the physical as well as the emotional energy sources. And like Victoria said, she was very strong. She was very strong in personality. So it was almost like she said to the other ghosts, "Back off. I'm going to materialize. I'm going to take the energy to do this." because she was the only one that I actually physically saw other than the cowboy.
Do you know what I just thought of? What if she was the lady from the boarding house and she came over and would get girls occasionally, like, come on, let's go. You know, I have somebody over here. That would be.
Sure,
the
that
weird-
I was just thinking the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Plot thickens.
Have you guys ever run a bordello?
Oh yeah, I have. Yeah, all the time.
All
Wait,
right.
did you say cat hotel?
Cat house?
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, it's a cat house, right? That's what, okay.
That's what they used to call it, right?
Has a whole new meaning now.
Now, Rob, did you stay there overnight?
I stayed in a brand new hotel outside of the Tombstone limits.
Oh, okay.
So after my stay in the very haunted bed and breakfast in England, I decided I would never stay in a place that's haunted overnight.
Yeah, there's a hotel there in Tombstone, isn't there? And it's still running, right?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of them. Yeah, but I made sure that I stayed in a hotel that was built on land that was not ever used before, other than to ride
Smart.
horses over.
Did you happen to go to the Tombstone Cemetery?
I did actually. It's funny you mentioned that because Boot Hill,
Right.
as it's known, was just 2 minutes away from the hotel that I stayed at.
Oh,
Oh,
really?
wow. Hmm.
Yeah, and I found out too that there a lot of the cowboys are buried there, the ones that died during the OK Corral shootout. And in the movie Tombstone, when they open the scene where they show that cemetery, there's a grave marker that says, it says 2 shots from a 44, no less, no more. And that is a true tombstone. The guy's name was Lester Moore, and somebody wrote 2 shots from a 44, no less, no more.
Aw.
They have the funniest. I mean, and it was like there was like a whole like a group that was kind of segregated from what I remember. They would have like certain demographics over here and certain demographics over there, and a lot of it was really racist, which kind of shocked me. But 1880, what can you do? But they had some really funny headstones there. But, I collect pressed pennies, and so if you go there and you get a pressed penny, it's like the greatest place.
Oh, nice. Nice. I had another question for Rob. This is more like towards science. So you're mentioning how ghosts, they need energy, right, to manifest or to exist. I was wondering, as an investigator, let's say I'm a ghost investigator. I've never seen anybody do this, but what if I go to a place that's haunted and I supply a lot of energy? I give them a lot of energy. Like, I don't know how, maybe like I generate a magnetic field. There are ways for me to generate a bunch of excess energy. Is there any way that they could make use of it? And if so, what kind of energy would you recommend I generate for them to make use of?
Yeah, so that actually would help ghosts manifest. But and that's why when I go into places with the paranormal group I belong to, the Inspired Ghost Tracking group, we keep extra batteries in the car. Because when we used to bring battery packs into haunted locations, they would drain the battery packs, the spare battery packs, as well as the ones in the instruments.
Oh, wow.
So we learned the hard way that we had to keep them in the car and then go back out and get them and then bring them in again. So so any energy source would work to help manifest a ghost. But again, they also have to want to communicate with you. I was just speaking to my friend David Cook, and he brought up a good point. He said some ghosts will want to talk to you, and other ghosts will want to talk to somebody else. And that's really true, because just like people, if you walk into a room full of people and you get a feel for people's personalities, you'll gravitate towards somebody you want to talk to. Conversely, you will avoid people that you don't think you'll get along with. And that point that David made is really well taken. I think that that's exactly what ghosts do. That's why some paranormal groups do not get activity when they go in.
Do you think that's why none of the men would talk to me? None of the men would talk to me. All the female spirits that were there, I had no problem. But the men, I didn't see them. Other than those two men, I didn't see men there. I didn't hear them. Couldn't feel their energy or anything. They're just like, maybe I just didn't register on their scale. I don't know.
No, I think that's because at the time, Victoria, that men really didn't hold women in respect. They didn't respect women as much as they should have. And conversely, some women are afraid to talk to men that come in. So the women that the female ghosts that I encountered, they would acknowledge me and then would maybe tell me one or two things, and then they would stop talking.
That's true. So do you think if I garbed up and went back, I would have better reactions? Because we did that. We were out in the Old Park Hotel out in kind of West Texas, and we dressed in period, and I was dressed like a saloon girl. And as soon as I stepped out of my room, I felt something on my back, and it's like, oh, yeah, somebody's here. Yeah.
Yeah, I think anytime that you give a ghost something that they're familiar with, they'll be more open to conversation.
Okay, so when I come out there Memorial Weekend, I'm gonna be dressed like a saloon girl.
All right.
Or for the coffee fit.
Bless you.
Yes, I swallowed coffee wrong.
Uh-oh.
Watch, one of these days I'm going to die while we're doing this. And if that happens, know that Black Lotus will continue because I'll still be here. I'll haunt you.
Well, Victoria and I will be able to share whatever words you have to say. So
There you go.
I can't believe what he just said. No.
Can we say that on YouTube?
My daughter and I were in a really bad wreck one time, and I would hate for my last words on earth to be some expletive. And so she was 3 at the time. And so the next day I sat her down and said, honey, did I say anything bad? Because a tree fell on top of us and crushed our car. And she's, I was like, okay, well, you can tell me this one time. What did I say? And she said, you said tree. I'm like, well, it's not bad. A tree was falling on the car, Woo! Dodge that bullet,
Well, anyway, folks, I think we're going to get out of here for the night. Rob, Victoria, thank you so much for being on again. Always a pleasure.
Thank you.
And anytime.
Thank you.
Viewers, thanks a lot for watching. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. And when you hit subscribe, make sure to hit the little bell. Smash that bell, because that way you'll get notified every time we are doing this. And we do this every Sunday and Thursday. And sometimes we take the day off for one reason or another, but it's pretty rare. But also do us a favor and share this around. If you have friends on your social media that are into the paranormal, definitely share it with your socials. We would really appreciate it. But anyway, if there's nothing else, until next time, keep thinking and question everything.
Bye, everybody.